studying your last two. I swim med when turned in. The staring down to mute. And can learn the pole that sunk he died.
In this example, we're introducing one of the most important topics in corporate taxation: investment income earned by corporations. Many beginners assume that all corporate income is taxed in the same way, but that is not true. Income earned from investments follows a completely different set of tax rules than income earned from normal business operations. Understanding these differences is essential for preparing an accurate T2 corporate tax return. Let's begin by looking at the left side of the slide. Here we have Rightsoft Inc., an owner-managed corporation that has accumulated surplus cash over time. Instead of leaving all of its money in a regular bank account, the corporation has invested part of its funds to generate additional income. This is a common strategy used by many successful corporations to grow their wealth. The illustration shows the corporation's investment portfolio, which consists of several different types of investments. These include mutual funds, publicly traded stocks, corporate bonds, and term deposits such as guaranteed investment certificates, or GICs. Each of these investments can generate different kinds of income, and each type is treated differently under Canadian corporate tax rules. Below the investment portfolio, you'll see the actual income earned during the year. The corporation received $6,845 of interest income, $10,985 of eligible dividends, $2,000 of ineligible dividends, and $36,220 of capital gains from selling investments. These amounts will become the starting point for the reporting process that we'll explore throughout this example. Now let's move to the center of the slide, where the three major categories of investment income are explained. The first category is interest income. This is generally the easiest type of investment income to understand. Interest is earned from financial products such as GICs, bonds, savings accounts, and term deposits. Whenever the corporation earns interest, the entire amount is included in taxable income. Unlike some other forms of investment income, there are no special deductions or partial exemptions. The rule is simple: interest income is 100% taxable. Next, let's examine dividend income. Dividends are payments received from shares owned in other corporations. Canadian corporate tax law divides dividends into two categories: eligible dividends and ineligible dividends. Eligible dividends are generally received from public corporations or corporations that have paid tax at the higher general corporate tax rate. Ineligible dividends are more commonly received from private corporations that qualify for lower small business tax rates. Although dividends received by one corporation from another Canadian corporation are often deductible under Section 112 of the Income Tax Act, this does not mean they are completely free from tax consequences. Certain dividends may trigger Part 4 tax, which is a special corporate tax designed to prevent tax deferral within corporate groups. We'll study Part 4 tax in much greater detail in the next slide. The third category is capital gains. Capital gains occur when the corporation sells an investment, such as shares or mutual funds, for more than its purchase price. In our example, the corporation realized a capital gain of $36,220. One of the most important rules in Canadian corporate taxation is that only half of a capital gain is taxable. This means that although the corporation earned a gain of $36,220, only 50% of that amount is included in taxable income. The remaining 50% is not taxable. This favorable tax treatment makes capital gains very different from interest income. Now look at the comparison table on the right side of the slide. It summarizes the tax treatment of each type of investment income. Interest income is fully taxable. Dividend income follows special rules involving deductions and Part 4 tax. Capital gains receive preferential treatment because only half of the gain is included in taxable income. Understanding these differences is critical because applying the wrong tax treatment can produce significant errors in the corporation's tax return. For example, treating a capital gain as fully taxable would overstate taxable income, while treating interest income as partially taxable would understate the corporation's tax liability. As you continue through this example, you'll see that each type of investment income also flows through different T2 schedules before reaching the final tax calculation. This is why identifying the correct type of income is always the first step in corporate tax preparation. The key takeaway from this slide is that corporate investment income is not a single category. Interest income, dividend income, and capital gains each have their own tax rules, reporting requirements, and calculations. Correctly identifying the type of investment income is the foundation for accurate T2 reporting and effective corporate tax planning. Now that we've identified the different types of corporate investment income, the next step is understanding how each type is reported in the T2 corporate tax return. One of the biggest challenges for beginners is realizing that investment income does not flow into a single schedule. Instead, each type of income follows its own reporting path before becoming part of the corporation's final taxable income. Let's begin with the left side of the slide, where we follow each category of investment income through the appropriate T2 schedules. The first category is interest income. Interest earned from GICs, bonds, savings accounts, and term deposits is considered income from property. This income is reported through Schedule 7 before becoming part of the corporation's taxable income. Unlike other investment income, there are no special calculations or deductions. The rule is straightforward. 100% of the interest earned is taxable and included in the corporation's income. Next, let's look at dividend income. Dividends received from other Canadian corporations are reported through Schedule 3. At first glance, this may seem unusual because dividends often qualify for a deduction under Section 112 of the Income Tax Act. This deduction is designed to prevent the same corporate profits from being taxed multiple times as they move between Canadian corporations. However, this does not mean that dividend income is completely ignored for tax purposes. Certain dividends may trigger what is known as Part 4 tax. In our example, the corporation has a Part 4 tax amount of $4,978. Part 4 tax is a special corporate tax that applies in specific situations involving dividend income and is intended to discourage corporations from indefinitely deferring taxes by retaining investment earnings within corporate structures. Now let's move to capital gains. Capital gains are reported through Schedule 6. In this example, the corporation sold investments and realized a capital gain of $36,220. Here we encounter one of the most important adjustments in corporate taxation. Although the accounting records show the full capital gain of $36,220, Canadian tax law includes only 50% of that gain in taxable income. Therefore, the taxable capital gain becomes $18,110. This difference between accounting income and taxable income is exactly why additional tax adjustments are required. Now look at the center of the slide. This illustrates how the corporation moves from accounting profit to taxable income. The process begins with the corporation's financial statements. These statements are prepared using accounting standards and record the full amounts of investment income according to financial reporting rules. However, accounting rules and tax rules are not always the same. Because of these differences, the corporation must prepare Schedule 1, which adjusts accounting income to arrive at taxable income. Notice the two adjustments shown inside Schedule 1. First, The taxable capital gain of $18,110 is added into the tax calculation because this is the portion recognized under the Income Tax Act. Second, the full accounting capital gain of $36,220 is deducted from accounting income. This removes the accounting treatment and replaces it with the correct tax treatment. These adjustments ensure that taxable income follows Canadian tax legislation rather than financial accounting standards. Now let's examine the right side of the slide, where we explore the purpose of Part 4 tax. The illustration begins with Corporation A paying a dividend to Corporation B. Under normal circumstances, dividends between Canadian corporations are often deductible under Section 112. Without additional rules, corporations could repeatedly transfer dividend income among themselves while postponing personal taxation indefinitely. To address this issue, the Income Tax Act introduced Part 4 tax. When certain dividends are received, Corporation B may be required to pay this special tax to the Canada Revenue Agency. The purpose is not simply to collect more tax. Instead, it helps prevent tax deferral and promotes fairness between different corporate structures by ensuring that investment income is taxed appropriately. At the bottom of the slide, notice the overall workflow. Multiple T2 schedules work together before the final tax calculation is completed. Schedule 3 handles dividend income. Schedule 6 reports capital gains. Schedule 7 reports interest income. And Schedule 1 performs the necessary tax adjustments. Only after all of these schedules have been completed can the corporation accurately determine its taxable income and calculate its final corporate tax liability. This highlights an important lesson for every new tax preparer. Corporate investment income is not simply entered into one place on the return. Each type of income has its own reporting requirements, its own calculations, and sometimes its own special tax rules. The key takeaway from this slide is that reporting investment income requires more than recording amounts from the financial statements. Interest income, dividend income, and capital gains each flow through different T2 schedules. Schedule 1 converts accounting income into taxable income, and Part 4 tax ensures that certain dividend transactions are taxed fairly. Understanding how these schedules work together is essential for preparing an accurate T2 corporate tax return. In this final slide, we'll see how all of the different types of investment income come together to affect a corporation's overall tax liability. Up to this point, we've looked at interest income, dividend income, and capital gains individually. Now it's time to understand how these income sources combine to influence the corporation's small business deduction, taxable income, and ultimately the total corporate tax payable. Let's begin with the left side of the slide, where we calculate aggregate investment income, often abbreviated as AII. Aggregate investment income is a special tax concept used in Canadian corporate taxation. It combines specific types of passive investment income earned by a corporation during the year. In our example, the corporation earns $6,845 of interest income, $10,985 of eligible dividends, $2,000 of ineligible dividends, and a taxable capital gain of $18,110, which represents 50% of the actual capital gain. When these amounts are combined according to the applicable tax rules, the corporation's aggregate investment income is approximately $24,955. This number is much more than just another tax calculation. It plays an important role in determining whether the corporation continues to receive the full benefit of the small business deduction. Now move to the center of the slide, where the overall impact is illustrated. The process begins with aggregate investment income. As a corporation earns more passive investment income, its aggregate investment income increases. Once aggregate investment income reaches certain thresholds established under the Income Tax Act, the corporation's available small business deduction business limit begins to decrease. This means that less of the corporation's active business income qualifies for the lower small business tax rate. Notice the illustration of the shrinking tax shield. This represents the gradual reduction of the small business deduction. As this benefit decreases, a larger portion of the corporation's business income becomes subject to the higher general corporate tax rate. The result is shown in the next step of the flowchart. More income is taxed at the general corporate rate instead of the lower small business rate. Naturally, this increases the corporation's total corporate income tax. This demonstrates why passive investment income has consequences beyond simply paying tax on the investment income itself. High levels of investment income can indirectly increase the tax paid on active business income as well. Now let's look at the professional workflow shown on the right side of the slide. The process begins with Schedule 3, where dividend income is reported. Next, capital gains are reported on Schedule 6, while interest income is reported through Schedule 7. These schedules then feed into Schedule 1, where accounting income is adjusted to arrive at taxable income using the rules of the Income Tax Act. After these adjustments have been completed, the corporation calculates its aggregate investment income. This figure is then used to determine whether the small business deduction must be reduced and whether any additional tax consequences apply. Finally, the corporation calculates its regular Part 1 corporate income tax. If applicable, Part 4 tax on dividend income is also added. Together, these components determine the corporation's final corporate tax payable. At the bottom left of the slide, you'll notice several common beginner mistakes. One common error is assuming that dividends received by a corporation are completely tax-free. While dividends may qualify for deductions under certain rules, they can still trigger Part 4 tax and affect other tax calculations. Another frequent mistake is forgetting to calculate Part 4 tax altogether. Beginners may also incorrectly include 100% of a capital gain in taxable income instead of applying the 50% taxable capital gain rule. Some preparers overlook aggregate investment income entirely, failing to recognize that it may reduce the small business deduction. Others calculate investment income correctly, but forget that higher passive income can affect the taxation of the corporation's active business income. The summary box reinforces the correct treatment. Interest income is fully taxable. Dividend income follows special deduction and Part 4 tax rules. Only 50% of capital gains are taxable. Aggregate investment income influences the small business deduction, and accurate reporting across all T2 schedules leads to the correct tax calculation. As professional accountants prepare corporate tax returns, they review every investment income source individually. Ensure each item is reported on the correct schedule. Verify all tax adjustments. Calculate aggregate investment income. Determine whether the small business deduction is affected. And finally, calculate both Part 1 tax and Part 4 tax before completing the T2 return. The key takeaway from this slide is that investment income affects much more than the corporation's taxable income. It influences aggregate investment income, may reduce the small business deduction, requires reporting across multiple T2 schedules, and ultimately changes the corporation's final tax liability. Understanding how all of these components connect is essential for preparing an accurate and professionally completed T2 corporate tax return.